Hi friends, welcome to my channel. My name is Juan. I'm a yarn addict, hence the name Juan the Yarn Addict, and I want to thank each and every one of you guys for stopping by to check out my video today. This is a yarn and crochet channel where we talk about all things yarn and all things crochet, so if that interests you, please sit back and watch this video because today, my friends, we're having coffee and cake. More specifically, I'm going to drink some coffee while I cake up some yarn cakes. So that's the goal for today. I have some skeins of yarn here that need attention. These are all vintage yarns coming out of a bin filled with vintage yarns. I'm trying to find the bin. So I have bins and bins of vintage variegated yarns that need attention. So these are the ones that I want to focus on today. If I get through this, then we'll continue on, but my goal is to get through this, okay? So let's go ahead and pick what we're going to start with. I think what I want to do is work with this one and this one right here. They kind of look similar. Let me see. No, they're not. They're actually different, right? Maybe two different lots. Oh, that's a shame. I thought it was the same. Okay, well, maybe let's not start with that. Let's start with something simple to get started. Okay. We're going to start with this one here. It looks like Wildflower. Honestly, I don't know if this one's vintage. It doesn't have the ball band on it. I'm not going to include it into my project because I'm not sure if it's vintage or not, but it still should get caked up. So we're just going to take care of this right quick. So I pulled out the stand wood, friends. I didn't think I was going to, but here we are. Here we are with the stand wood, friends. So as always, I create a slip knot. It just makes it easier for me. When I pull the cake out of the tray, I can just get right to work. The slip knot is already there. So then I set it right on the top here, like so, like that. And then I like to apply a little bit of tension with the yarn. Something in my brain tells me I can fit more in. I can fit more in the cake if it's nice and tight. I'm not exactly sure how true that is, but just in my mind, it satisfies me if I have a little bit of tension with this. So that's what we're gonna do. We're just gonna do that. I'm gonna start out nice and slow. Okay, there we go. Maybe I don't need tension. Okay, so there it is. I didn't think I was going to pull out the stand wood, friends. Listen, my knit picks is my favorite just because I can get a lot of yarn on that little thing. You know, it's amazing. I changed it up because I actually want to see if the cakes that I make with this are bigger and more compact than the knit picks. Reason being, I want to be able to package these up and do giveaways with these. So we'll see. Something tells me that there's going to be quite a bit of yarn coming out of this, but honestly, at first glance, the thickness of this cake is about the same as what I would get out of a Knit Picks ball winder. I actually have it right here, which I'll talk to you guys about this in just a second, because a lot of you guys have been asking me questions about the Knit Picks ball winder, so I can definitely help you with that. But first, let's see what's going on with this. I'm applying a little bit of tension with my hand, just a light pinch, nothing too hard, just to keep it taut like that. And yeah, I'm finding that this is exactly how I want it to be, nice and tight. So we'll see. I'll be surprised if the cake like turns out to be like humongous. I'm starting to see like a shelf start right here, so we'll see. We shall see. I thought I had Wildflower somewhere in my stash up here. It might be in the next room. I'm not exactly sure, but I'm curious to know what exactly this looks like stacked up against that other stuff I have in the next room. because sometimes, you know, we look at skeins of yarn at first and we just know what the colorway is, but then no. So case in point, there is a vintage yarn called Kaleidoscope, and I know I'm saying that wrong. Let me see, hold on. Kaleidoscope, sorry. This is Kaleidoscope. Kaleidoscope. So at first glance, it reminds me of Mexicana yarn, but the difference between Kaleidoscope and Mexicana are the color changes and how fast it breaks into the next color. You know, so that slight variation makes this completely different than Mexicana yarn. So I'm wondering if that's the case with this, because this has the same colorways as Wildflower. So I wonder what that looks like stacked up next to each other. After the video, I will definitely check it out and see. I'm liking what I'm seeing so far. It's nice and tight, not loose. Yeah, it's looking nice. We shall see. I really like the purple in this skein too. I mean, I'm a fan of the darker purples, but yeah, this is looking nice. We should be getting, yeah, we're getting closer towards the end here. And it might do this with the other skeins as well. We'll see. By the way, friends, this is the first time I'm using this. Literally the very first time. Like, this is the first skein that I'm making with this. That's how like new this is. I took it out of the bag, assembled it. It was very easy. The only thing I had to really assemble, I needed to put this underneath the washer and the wing nut here, and then I had to snap this plate into place, and that was it. I said, let me pull it out, let me see, because who knows, it might actually hold more yarn. Something tells me it will, but that's okay. I mean, I'm expecting it to. This here costs 2 times as much as this. So actually, was it more than 2 times? $23 is what I paid for this. 23. And I've caked hundreds of cakes with this, and it's still in perfect shape. Love it. This, however, I can't remember, was it 47 or 67? It wasn't 67, was it? No. I want to be safe, twice as much. Just to be safe. I don't want to put the cart before the horse. You know? The one thing about the vintage, well, I don't want to call this vintage, right? But one thing about yarn is the fibers, you know? With yarn that's been sitting for a while, because listen, vintage or not, this yarn has been sitting. It's the fibers in the air, and it stuffs up my nose, and I start talking like I have a stuffy nose. I went through 2 air purifiers between this room and the next room. I've had them running for 24 hours. And yeah. I have to go get a 3rd air filter. I mean, a 3rd air purifier. You know what I need to do? I need to do more research and find the best one. That's what I need. Because I just find whatever's on sale, you know, deals and steals. Deals and steals, my friend. I'm learning that they're not all what they're cracked up to be. You know what I mean? So, they're not every single, like, air purifier is amazing, you know, groundbreaking and all the things, you know. Some of them just, they're and that's what I'm learning. So, because with the air purifiers that I've had, for me to still be all stuffy because of the fibers, it's not really doing what it should be doing. I think, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see, my friends. We'll see. Okay. So here we are at the end. Of course, we have a little knot. Nothing major. Nothing major. So I'm loving how tight that is. Okay, let me just take this off. Wrap it around like so, like that. Let me bring this down like this. There we go. Wrap this around and put it underneath the yarn that I just wrapped around. Come on, Juan. I gotta give myself a pep talk here. Okay. All right. So there we have it. All right, let me just pop that off. And normally I would put, like, you know, the ball band right here and slide it. But there is no ball band. That's nice. Okay. So there we have it, friends. Okay. All right, so next we're going to do Red Heart with Love. Now I know this is Red Heart with Love. I at first thought that this was Fruit Punch, but it's not. And yeah, I was told from a friend of the channel and a friend of mine the correct name, but for the life of me I can't recall what it is right now. But we're just going to go ahead and put this on there. Let me just do that. There we go. Put that on there. I'm missing a step. Yes, I am. There we go. And then let's go ahead and put it in here. All right. There goes nothing. It gets right to work, friends. Right to work. So that's good for us. Now this Red Heart with Love, it's a thicker 4-weight, and the recommended hook size for the Red Heart with Love is a 6.5 millimeter crochet hook versus the standard 5.5 with the regular Red Heart Super Saver. You know, so when you're working it up, I mean, at first glance, oh yeah, 5.5, but no, I've already been working with this in another colorway. I started with a 5.5 millimeter crochet hook, and guess what? It just doesn't, it looks too tight, and there's a reason why they recommend a 6.5 millimeter crochet hook. I mean, by all means, if you want to use a 5.5, go ahead. But if you follow the recommended hook size for the yarn, you'll find that it actually looks really good, you know? So, yeah. I don't know if this is a full skein or maybe a project was started with this and then, you know, the skein was just abandoned. I'm not sure what the story is with this, but by first feel, it looks like there's a lot of the skein left, which is great. Within arm's reach, I do have the Fruit Punch. I want to show you how close the colorways are between this skein here and the new skeins of Fruit Punch. So that is Fruit Punch. It looks almost identical. But you see the difference in the blue? I think that's the only color that's different between this and this. And so it gets a new name. I want to say it's like Sunrise or something. I think I'm totally wrong with that, but it's something like that. Anyway, so what am I going to do with this? Listen, friends, I have no idea. This is probably going to be one of those things that I pull out of stash to make like a hat, or just one of those one-off projects that only requires like that much yarn, this much. So that's what I'm thinking. I mean, we all have yarn like that, you know, in our stash. Oh, well, you know, I don't want to get rid of it because I love it, but it's not really enough to do something major with it. But I'm going to hold on to it just in case, because you never know. That's what this yarn is for me, because I love the colorways here, obviously. I mean, the blue was the only difference between this and that. And I love this just as much as that. So yes, Red Heart with Love is amazing. Now, currently in the market, there's a lot of solids. There's a few variegated colorways of Red Heart with Love currently. But unfortunately, this is not one of them. It's got all the reds and the oranges. It's got like this olive green. It's so nice. And there's little pops of like, is that purple? I'm not sure what that is. When I come across it, I'll point it out. But I'm thinking there's like this little pop of like purple when it goes from the red to the blue. There's just like, you know, a little smidge of purple. I'm waiting to come across it because I see it over here, but I don't want to mess this up. So, of course, we're approaching the end, so we're going to have a little bit of a hodgepodge of a mess, which is fine for us. I mean, we're all used to it, right? We all deal with this every day. All the days we deal with this. It's almost the end, Juan. It's almost the end. We'll get there. And I find that like the more aggressive you are with these knots, the more difficult they become. You almost have to touch it with fine fingers, you know, in order to loosen the knots and things. So you have to be light on your fingers. I need a sip of coffee. I need a sip of coffee. My friends, today we have Black Rifle in the cup. It's so good. My order came in, Black Rifle hazelnut. It's so good. And yeah, several of you put me on to the Black Rifle coffee. And I'm so grateful for it because it's so good. It's so good. I would say it's equally as good as my Dunkin' Donuts hazelnut. So, yeah. Now, I keep stock of my hazelnut Dunkin' Donuts. I keep that because, you know, I have to order the Black Rifle. So, while I'm waiting for the order to come in, I am drinking my Dunkin' Donuts hazelnut. Now, you would think I'd order enough to get in between orders, but I'm still trying to find my swing. Like, at what point do I order more before I run out? So I'm not all the way there yet, you know? I haven't figured out that formula. I haven't figured it out, friends, but that's okay. You know what I mean? Listen, I'm not without. Let me swing this around this way. Okay. So that arm, see that arm that swings around? Okay, you can't have anything in that path. I mean, it'll get caught, it'll swing around. I mean, I've seen channels work with this and there's like just some yarn laying around and that thing swings around and gets caught all into the gears. It's hilarious. Anyway, there we go. I love how tight that looks. Look at that. Isn't that nice? But I will tell you that my Knit Picks does the same thing. Okay. I'm waiting to get nice and full. You know what I mean? We're not there yet. What do I want to do next? I'm really digging these bright colors here. But it looks like I have to unwind all of this to get to this. And so that's for a future date. That's not this episode or this video. Not this video, friend. Maybe another one. Let me get in here and see. Okay, let's do this one. So this is giving us like peach, and I want to say like a powder blue. It's not a sky blue because sky blue is a little darker, but you see that there? So it's got like white and like powder blue with like a peach, I want to say. So we're going to work that up. Now I'm wondering, is this the same or is it different? No, that's different. This has got like a yellow and a peach and a white, where this has got like a blue, a peach and a white. So we're going to do this one next. So this should work up like a dream. We'll see. You know, sometimes looks can be deceiving. You know, it might be a nightmare inside that skein. Who knows? You know. I tell you what I love the most about vintage variegated yarns. It's the fact that, you know, in years past, they were never afraid to play with colors. I mean, we don't see as many colorways like this today than there were back in the day. I mean, who knows? Maybe they did have color changes as often as we do now, but just being able to see everything in one shot, one fell swoop, I don't know. I'm curious to know, like, did they explore the color wheel more? You know, did they play around and not worry so much about sales, but more about being creative and art and all that? Because, you know, yarn really wasn't that expensive back in the day. You know, obviously costs of living and things were different as well. Totally get it. I understand that. But I think yarn was more accessible back then than it is now. I think, you know, you could go to, you know, Kmart and places like that, Clover. For those of you guys who were around back then, there was a place called Clover's that sold yarn, I remember. Woolworths, all the places. Anyway, you know, the prices were more affordable, I feel. I remember I went shopping with my aunt and my grandmother. The prices weren't like insane. It was more along the lines of, okay, which colors do we pick? And if I'm not mistaken, I mean, every time, and I mean every time, I went to Woolworths or Kmart, they were always in stock with their yarn. Always had yarn on the shelves. It was never like it is now, where you'll go in, depending on where you're going, and you're seeing entire sections blown out. You know? Now, I don't know if it has anything to do with the fact that, like, back in the day, a lot of our yarns were made here in the States. You know, our yarns were made here and not really imported. So I don't know if that has anything to do with it. But yeah, in stock was always on point. And it was just a matter of, okay, out of all the colors that we're looking at, what are we going with today? I remember my aunt and my grandmother having those conversations. My aunt loved making baby blankets, and her favorite stitch with the baby blankets were the baubles and the popcorns. You know, she would design blankets based on how the popcorns laid across the blanket, you know. And then, of course, she did the moss stitch, as I said before. She would change colors every row. Like, she would pick like 3 or 4 colors and rotate those 3 or 4 colors every row. And that was just her, that was her thing. Everyone knew that my aunt's blankets were made like that, you know. My mom, always the granny square. My aunt, the moss stitch. And my grandmother, the chevron. She was notorious for chevrons, the single crochet chevrons in the back loop. And yeah, there was a pink one that I showcased on the channel here that came from my grandmother. It was a chevron. I can't remember which video it was, but that blanket was made in the 50s, I believe. Yeah, it's a very old blanket. I'll have to look for it. But yeah, I'll show you guys again. But yeah, so I want to know what stitch, like what am I known for? Maybe I haven't been doing it long enough yet to be like known in my family, my chosen family. Like what, because I think maybe twins in a stitch, but like, I mean, I don't know. My friends tell me that, you know, twins in a stitch is my thing. It's 2 double crochets in the same stitch, and then you skip the next stitch, and then twins in a stitch. Like, I'm notorious for that. I really enjoy that, by the way. But, you know, is it my favorite stitch to do? No, it's not. But I enjoy doing twins in a stitch because I like the way it looks. Maybe it is my thing. I don't know. maybe. But what I'm learning is that there's so many stitches that if you play around with the stitches and you get creative, you may create your own little fabric, you know? There's this one stitch that I'm playing around with, okay? And I discussed this with, some close friends of mine. So in one stitch, right, you start out with a single crochet, chain one, go back into the same stitch throughout this whole thing, okay? Just imagine all in the same stitch. Single crochet, chain one, half double crochet, chain one, double crochet, chain one, extended double crochet, chain one, and then treble crochet, chain two, and then go into the next stitch with a single crochet. I want to know if that's done anywhere else because I can't find it. And I played around with that and I think it looks beautiful. The only issue I'm having right now with it, and I'll figure it out, I promise, is when you're finished the row and you turn your work to come back, where do you place your stitches? Obviously, in the single crochets, you're going to double stack with another stitch. So, coming back across, maybe it'll be a single crochet or a half double or even a double, who knows? But the stitch placement, I need to make sure that even with that stitch, with all of those things in it, the row behind it lays exactly as it should to keep the stitch count correct. So we shall see. Now these outer rings of the vintage yarns, they're not knotty, but they're tough. Not tough either. They're stiff because they've been sitting that way for so long, Lots of things have touched the outsides of these skeins. So, yeah. I just have to be careful because I don't know. It's just been sitting around. Who knows where? Dust and things. All the things. All right, so let's go ahead and wrap this around like this. Let's tuck it under. There we go. Listen, I like this colorway situation happening here. I think it's nice. Let me tighten that up. There we go. Pop that off. Let's slide this off. I love how nice and tight this is. Perfect. Love it. Okay. So let's play around with this. I've eyeballed this for quite a while now, and I need to put this to bed. So let's see. I need to figure out where. Okay, so one side is the inside. Oh, here it goes. Okay. Found it. I had to talk it out, friends. I had to talk it out and figure it out because I wasn't going to find it, So, okay, so just do a slip knot like this. And by the way, friends, hopefully you've pulled out a whip. You're working on something while I'm talking, or maybe you're just glancing up every now and then to look at the colorways and listen to me babble on about all the things, which might not make any sense to you, but that's okay. It's fine. Coffee is so good. Okay. Now, I don't want to say this is marled, but it's something. It's literally, I want to say like a mauve. Look, it's like a mauve color with this bright red wrapped around it. And you can actually peel off that red and like separate it. I don't know what you call that. It's something. Everything is something. I just don't know what that something is with this. It's giving like mauve candy cane. Like a vintage Christmas yarn. Okay. We're well on our way, friends. We're just knocking it out of the park. You know what I mean? We're working Mr. Stanwood. He's just, taking care of business over here. So I'm almost through my vintage variegated yarns. Now I don't need any more. I think I have everything I need for this project. I may have to exclude some of these colorways just because it doesn't flow. I don't know if you've watched the other ones, the other videos, vintage variegated yarns, where we're caking up and things. The goal here is I'm going to take all of these cakes and lay them across the table in my dining room. And I'm going to arrange them from light to dark and then from warm to cold. And I already know some of these cakes just won't fall into place. But at the end of the day, the goal here is to be able to use as much of it as humanly possible. Whatever I don't use, I'm donating. For sure. You know, I have always wanted to do a project exclusively with vintage variegated yarns, and I have been, so fortunate to be able to receive these yarns, some through myself, through like eBay and things like that, but then also I've been gifted a lot of this yarn here as well. So once my project is done, I plan on paying it forward. Yeah, I don't know exactly where these yarns will end up. I thought about doing mystery box giveaways because I feel like I'm not the only person on the planet that loves vintage variegated yarns. And just think, friends, if you wind up with this, it's already nice and neat for you, you know? So if you wind up with the yarns that has a ball band, of course I'll include it, unless it has a recipe. I'll slip a little note, like a 3x5 card, and tell you like what it is and things. Unless it has a recipe, you know, because I love collecting those. So yeah, what I'm trying to do here again is just cake everything up, organize it, figure out a plan, figure out which ones I'm going to commit to and which ones I'm going to put to the side, do the project. Once it's done, I'm going to box all of the leftover cakes up and then figure out a plan. Okay, that's the plan here with this. So right now, tentatively right now, the plan is I want to showcase each one of these colorways in a blanket, and I want to do solid hexagons, and I want to encase each hexagon in a solid either black or like a charcoal. I don't want to use any other color because I feel like it will take away from, you know, what this is, you know. So I may just do like a black border around each and every hexagon, and I only want to make enough for the project, which I'm looking to make either a queen or a king size blanket. So if I do a king size blanket, I need 196 hexagons in the size that I'm looking for. So I need 196. If I'm doing a queen size, I need 168. So those are the measurements that I'm going with. And that does include the black border around. So I've already swatched one, I've already measured it, and so that's where we sit with that. Now, let's see. Let's do, no, not this one. Hold on, friends. I'm looking. So this one here is Country Peach. It kind of looks like this, but not really. It's a little darker. I love how tight that is. Hold on, friends. Hold on. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to cake this up. This is called Starbrights. Isn't that nice? I could leave it like this, but I'd rather work it out of a cake. Just preference. Let me move these cakes out of the way so Starbrights has its moment to shine. Let's just do that and do this. There we go. Okay. So let's go ahead and get Starbrights on the winder. Come on, Juan. Come on, Juan. All right, so here we go. Let's feed it into the arm. I always thought this was maybe, I don't know. We're just gonna feed it into that thing and put that thing into this thing. Okay, so Starbrights. This here, my friends, is a 6-ounce skein. It is 170 grams. It is a medium 4-weight yarn. And let's see, what else can I tell you about it? They recommend a 5mm crochet hook. And where's the yardage, my friends? Oh, that's right. There is no yardage. Oh, no yardage. They went by weight. So it feels like, I don't know, 325 yards. I could be completely wrong. I'm probably wrong, but that's okay. I forgot the vintage yarns didn't have the yardage on the skeins and things. Okay, loving the colors. Oh yeah, that's nice. I could see making quite a few hexagons with this. Oh yeah, for sure. And you know what I like most about this skein is the color play between the aqua, the yellow, and the blue. That's what I really like about this skein. Super awesome. And it even has purple in here, which is amazing. Let me get that out of there. Okay, back in business. Super nice. You know what I prefer from the knit picks? I actually like it when this wee wobbles and it goes back and forth like this. I actually like that. I find that like very soothing. Whereas with this, the yarn, this thing right here goes so fast that you can barely see it. You know what I mean? Like, where's the excitement here? I know, always looking for excitement, Juan, always. Yeah, I do like this colorway. It's a shame it's not available, because if it were, I'd be buying like 12 skeins of it, and I'd be doing a project in it. Oh yeah, that's super nice. Wow, look at them colors. It's like a prism. Okay, patience, Juan, patience. You know what I always wondered? I wondered, and I don't know why I wonder this, but I wonder if my grandmother and my aunt were still alive, would they like the yarns that we have today? Like, I always wondered that. Like, would they like it, or would they turn their nose to it? Would they like these newer yarns that weren't around when they were around? You know, I've always wondered that. And then in hindsight, I think, like, if I were older and I was alive earlier, you know, like instead of being born in 79, if I was born in 59, would I have liked the older yarns as much as I like the vintage yarns that I'm exposed to now? Like, I know some of the yarns that I have here are from like the 50s and 60s, but I wonder, like, if I had been born 20 years earlier, would I have liked the yarns from like the 40s? You know? Something tells me that I wouldn't. But then again, I don't know, you know? I know technology today has allowed us to like have better product. But back then, crochet isn't what it is today, you know? It's evolved. So, I don't know. I'm so curious to know what people think. What do you guys think? I know there are people of all ages who watch me. So, what do you think about the vintage yarns? Do you think they're better, you know, the vintage yarns are better than the yarns of today? Or do you think today's yarns are better than the yarns of yesteryear? Because look at this. I mean, this is beautiful. And this is all vintage. This is so gorgeous, this yarn. I almost don't want to use it. It's so pretty. Wow. Is there? Oh, it's just care instructions. We already know what to do with this yarn. We need to just wash it and dry it. That's it. Anyway, things are a lot simpler, you know, nothing overly complicated, you know, you just got a hook, you got the yarn, and you had fun. That's what it was about, you know. And I guess it still is like that today, but not as much, my friends. It's, you know, you have all these different kinds of things, and it's just, I don't know. I don't want to say it's a bad thing. I understand why things are the way they are today. It's just, isn't it nice to just let it be simple? I mean, simple is nice. It's not stressful. You can enjoy the craft for what it is and not worry about anything. And then I wish the yarn was inexpensive enough so that everyone can enjoy it and not ever have to worry about waiting for deals and steals. How nice would it be to get Red Heart Super Saver for 99 cents a skein? I'll tell you what, if the Red Heart Super Saver was 99 cents a skein, I'd have to buy a bigger house. I mean, or I'd have to get another he shed, you know, or something. Or what if the value yarns, like not Red Heart or whatever, but like Big Twist. What if Big Twist was 2 for $1? I mean, could you imagine how many people would be crocheting right now? I'm telling you, we'd all be sharing pictures of our yarn walls. I'm just saying. That's gorgeous. I love that. And I didn't put the paper in there because I know what this is. This is Starbrights. It has no recipe in it, but I should have put it in there anyway. Oh well, lesson learned. Moving on. I'll set that over there. Starbrights. Let's do Red Heart Kids. This colorway here is called Dream Girl. I'm loving the purple and the blue and that mauve. Super nice. Okay, let's just get it done. Let's get it done, friends. Every time I see like this, I always think New Year's resolution, and I'm chanting it in my mind. New Year's resolution, you know, embrace the pink. And I have done an amazing job. I'm gassing myself up. I did a great job so far, you know. So we're in April. You know, I've done pink projects and things, and I haven't teased or made fun of the color pink. I haven't done anything of the sort. You know, I've even supported a lot of the friends on the YouTube streets for their beautiful, beautiful pink projects, you know. I even wore pink clothes for my mother's birthday. That took a lot, but I did it, you know. I'm trying. I just don't think pink is for me, you know, but I will try, you know, as much as I possibly can. If people out there who don't care for purple try, I feel as though I can try with the pink. I'm just saying. I'm probably going to give this away. I don't think I want this in my project. I'm just saying. I'm grateful for to have it, but this is not for me. It's not for my project. Yes. So, I don't know. I may change my mind. I don't know. I'm being indecisive right now. We'll see what's happening. What's going on here? Okay, let's just, little snafu. Anyway, yeah, I'm gonna take this ball band and put it inside the center of this. I don't know, to my surprise, listen, I may wind up using it, you know? I can't sit here and tell you that I'm not going to use it. I'm not really sure, because once I lay the colors out, I may need something like this to tie something into something else, you know? Because I want that gradient effect with all the variegated yarns. I don't want any hard, like, light to dark without anything in the middle to kind of transition it. Yeah. So we'll see. Who knows? It might turn out to be something that I hadn't even expected. So right now in my mind, I'm thinking light to dark, warm to cold, that kind of a thing. All hexagons. Yeah. So that's what I have in my mind. But also too, like, my mom said something to me the other day, and she was like, Juan, I know you have these hexagons in your mind. Like, okay, fine, hexagons. And she rolled her eyes. And I'm like, why did you roll your eyes? She said, well, last year, Juan, you did a temperature blanket in hexagons. You had those things all over the house. You made a king-size hexagon blanket. I'm like, okay, point taken. She was like, you have all these vintage books. Look in those vintage books and find something that you can use the yarns with. Hello, you're making a vintage blanket with vintage yarns. Look into the vintage books. Stop with the hexagons already. I'm like, okay. You know, she's she gave me her mind, her whole mind. She's like, bam. That's what I'm thinking, Juan. Is she right? I think so. I think she's right. Is this the same as this? I think it is. We're gonna double dip. Yep. I'm gonna see if I can put two skeins on one situation. But let me get back to this. So I told my mother, I was like, all right, Mom, I'll look into the vintage magazines and see what I can come up with, you know, because who knows, it may turn out to be amazing, you know? And she's like, you're not gonna know unless you look. Look into all those magazines you have, the ones you've gotten off of eBay, the ones that you were gifted, you know, and just see what's out there. You know, you may see something that blows your mind away, and you're going to want to touch all of those yarns that you've been caking up. And she's absolutely right. Sometimes I don't like to admit that, though. I mean, you know, it's just how it is. We don't always like to admit when someone else is right. I'm just human, you know what I mean? I may have to look at what I have and be like, you know, maybe let's not do hexagons again. Maybe let's pull a recipe out of a vintage magazine, put your taste on it, put your spin on it. Maybe not. Just follow the recipe. You know, how awesome would it be to see vintage yarns done in a vintage recipe? You know? Vintage pattern, for those of you guys who don't like when I say recipe. Well, listen, I like saying recipe. I'm just saying. That's how I was taught, and that's how I enjoy saying it. So, recipe, recipe, recipe. Recipe. I'm kidding, I'm sorry. Actually, I'm not sorry. I'm teasing. I'm having fun. Okay. So, let me just do this. Ready? Okay. Wait, let me go backwards. How do you go backwards with this? All right, we're not going backwards then. So let's just do this. And I will leave the tail like that so I can sew it in and do all the things I need to do. So let's do that. Yeah, this is good. Now, I have a feeling that both of these skeins will work up into this cake. Just a hunch. Maybe. I also have to remember that that arm, literally, I mean, we're limited in space because eventually it's going to start snagging on the cake. We'll see. It's going to be a close call here. I wonder if that arm bends back more. Can I get that arm to like extend or back up? I'm sure I can. Why not? Wow. I wonder if I can get it to go like to cover all of this. How awesome would that be? Pretty awesome, I'd say. Wow. We'll get through this, friends, I promise. I love caking up yarn. I don't know why. I just love doing it, you know? Something about organization, something about the skeins being neat and it being able to stack up in a tray. Because I put them in the tray and then I stack them up. Like I stack the trays on top of one another. The trays are all clean, so it's not like I have to worry about the bottom of one tray being dirty or getting like the yarns dirty or anything. No, it's not like that. We're getting to the end. Yay. That outer part is always like, sticky is the wrong word, but you see how it's like stuck? I guess sticky is the right word. I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and just separate all of this and tell you all the things. Friends, I hope you really enjoyed this with me. If you've stuck around this long to hear me out, maybe, you actually enjoy listening to me babble on about all the things. But, check and make sure that you're subscribed to my channel because I'd love to have you if you're not. Hit the like button and then hit the notification bell to stay updated with all the things regarding me and my channel. I say this all the time, by the way. I know it sounds like a broken record, but it's the truth. I say all the things. I go live every Sunday at 6 p.m. with my mother. I bring her onto the channel. If you haven't met her yet, she's a hoot, I promise. So, yeah. Let me just cake this up, or tie this up, rather. Yeah, anyway. If you're not sure if you want to subscribe to my channel, check my other videos. See if you like those, This is just a little snippet of what I do on my channel. Yeah, I do tutorials, I do yarn reviews, I cake up yarn, I do whip it with wands where I'll pull out a whip, I'll crochet with you guys and hang out and talk. We do all the things here. So if that is of interest to you, consider subscribing. I'd love to have you. This, my friends, is 2 whole skeins of Red Heart Kids, which I think is phenomenal. And guess what I forgot to do? I forgot to put this inside. That's okay. You know what I'm going to do? We're going to just put it on the side. Just like that. So, let me get a tray and put my cakes. Look at how nice that's perfect. I mean, come on. It's so good. We did 6 cakes in one video. And there's still room for more. Love that. So, my friends, that wraps up this video. Again, I'm going to say it again. If you enjoyed this video, hit like, hit subscribe, do all the things. And, tell me what you think of the video in the comments. I'd love to hear what you have to say. So that is it for this one. And until the next time, take care, guys. Bye-bye.